This time on 818 Custom Garage, which axle's right for you? Super 8 V2, Super 8 V1. Let's get into it. We're going to tear them apart, compare them, show you positives and negatives so you can make the right decision. Let's get into it. Boom, look at this. Welcome back, everybody. Shane with 818 Custom Garage. We picked these up. These are the new release, the Super 8 V2. We've got a set of Super 8 V1s. Let's compare them. Let's figure out which one's really the right choice for you. They may not be for everybody. They may be for everybody. We don't know yet. I haven't even opened these yet. So let's check these out. Comes with their aluminum steering, their V2 aluminum steering, which we're not going to use because we want to do a solid comparison. They give you all the hardware, they give you some link balls, hardware. And then this is the front, I believe. Yep, we got the fronts. Fronts, ooh, look at these. These are nice. Super cool. They look just as nice, I would say, as the regular Super 8s. You'll see it's got the new knuckle, which is the same knuckle that is used on the Spider 9. So, so that means it's got the same bearing retainer, which is cool. They have the same axle, inner axle, as the Spider 9. So, we're going to do a little measurement for you too and show you that. So, but yeah, look at the bottom, revised, a lot smoother, a lot more radius through here. Looks good. Still the high quality, I would say. Great machining, great looks. Super cool. And fits a normal, SCX24 servo mount. So this is an LGRP one, but you could use a MOFO one, which we like to use a lot of times. But yeah, this should go on there. Might be tight on some of these because theirs are usually pretty tight, I've found. Oh, there we go. So, standard SCX24 servo mount. This does have a 2.5 millimeter axle stub. So they give you the 2.5 millimeter nuts, which are cool. They've got the LGRP logo on them. I think it's super awesome. One thing I did notice, like when you get the black aluminum or the gray aluminum, they normally, when you look at the cover, has that LGRP logo. There's no longer any logos anywhere. So if you don't have the nuts on, there's no LGRP logo anywhere. But yeah, let's look at so you can see how much more radius it is down below. This will be nice, rolling over. Front looks pretty similar. They just really radius the back side of it. And then, yeah, I mean, should have a little bit different C-hub when you break it down, because this uses the larger bearing in there too. So same size bearing as like a TRX 4M. So these are much larger axle shaft too, which is good. Should be good for strength. Nice universal joint inside there. What we'll do is we'll pop these off too. And what I'd like to do, actually, what we're going to do first is, this is kind of how I like to set up a lot of my Super 8s. I run the Super 8 brass, I run the little guy brass steering. And then I usually run either like a Trio or a Hot Racing or a Tiny Terrains knuckle. I like the Trios, they fit really good and they have pretty good weight. These are a little bit on the heavier side for a knuckle. The Hot Racing ones are probably some of the more heavy ones, but they don't always fit well. Sometimes I have to open up like the holes. These Trio ones always fit super, super nice. So Trio does a great job in machining parts. So, so basically aluminum housing, their brass steering, brass knuckle, and then I do a brass cover too. Right now though, they don't have a brass cover out for this yet that I haven't seen. So I would assume they're probably coming with a brass cover. They did come out with the new brass knuckles, so these can be used on both the Super 8 V2 and the Spider 9. So I've got a set for my Spider 9s too. The awesome thing about these two is you can now do the scale brakes on them. So I picked up a set of the R1 Concepts version. I have the Willwood version on my Spider 9s. I'm gonna put brakes on this thing because it looks cool. So let's see what these things weigh. I'll actually put the nut back on because I got nuts and I have hexes on that one. That one's got brass hexes too. So let's see what this weighs. Just kind of base. It's at 35 grams right now. This thing loaded, so this thing loaded, ready to go, is going to be way more. That's at 80 grams right now. And I know when you put the servo mount on, it should be around 90. So it's 93, 92, 93. That's usually where I try to run a lot of my axles, is in that range. Around that 90 grams. I think that's I don't like going too much heavier. So let's put the steering on. Let's put the knuckles on, and we'll weigh it up. And while we're doing that, we'll look at the internals of this real quick too. So let's follow along, man. It's nice. Nice axle shaft. These axle shafts look pretty similar, like the sizing here, because it's neck down, you know. It's got a little bit bigger U-joint. It does have the bigger bearing in there. I do like the bearing retainer on this. You know, and having the steering being double shear, super good too. Looks good inside. There's no inner bearing, which I usually don't run anyways on a lot of axles. All the machining looks really good, like normal. So, let's look at this guy. Let's pull this guy off too, because we're not going to use them. YouTube was going to give me a strike here for some of the content I used when it came to the audio. So you get to hear my voice as I'm going through all these awesome parts and trying to fix things. Okay, so I apologize. Had to break away for a little bit. In order to get the big bearing out of, as I drop it, man. In order to get the large inner bearing out of the knuckle, I had to heat up the knuckle and pick it out. I was using a tiny little screwdriver to try to get in there, usually pulls it out. I had my picks, multiple different picks. I could not get in there. It would not, I mean, I could get a little edge on it, but it would not come out. So I was like, you know what? Got my little torch, heated up the outside of the knuckle, you know, just outside areas, and then just grabbed the little pick and it popped right out. So it's a tight fit, guys, which is good. You want that. So let's look. An aluminum knuckle, bare, 3 grams. They're brass knuckles. 8 grams. Man, it only adds 5 grams. Ooh. So we're really only going to add 10 grams total. We're probably going to end up needing more weight one of these days. I don't think this is going to be enough. So for a lot of guys to really go see the benefits with certain builds. But, well, we'll see. We'll see what it all comes out to be. So let's go assemble this one, this V2, with the brass knuckles, the brass steering, and we'll put the brakes on, because the brakes are what they're going to be. You know, they're going to add the weight to. This front one has a set of brass hexes. So, and then we'll look at the rear too. The rear, I don't see there being much change or difference. So, except for that radius, I think will be nice back there. So, all right, let's go build this thing, and then Let me just slap it together and we'll come back. You know how they go together. Let's look at this steering link. I was going to slam this all together and show you, but you see how it like rotates down? They've got a nice chamfer here to give you some clearance when you come up against obstacles. So I like that a lot. But let's look at one thing I thought was really cool. Look at the holes where your pivot balls are going to be. Look at the chamfers in them. Chamfered there, top and bottom. So when you look at your pivot ball and the O-ring, it gives it a little bit more gives it a little bit more room to kind of rotate. It's still tight in there, but it gives it that free motion without being too wobbly. So I thought that was kind of cool. We'll see how that works too. I think they did that on the Spider 9s too, if I remember right, on their like linkage components. So I don't know, thought it was cool. Thought I'd share it real quick before I put the rest of this together and we go weigh them. All right, so let's look at this completed axle, man. Look at this thing. The brakes look sweet. The knuckle, like the scale looks awesome. I mean, it is sweet. I mean, you don't have to run the brakes. You can run a normal, brass hex or whatever you want to run on there. But like this has the option to do the brakes. Why wouldn't you? It looks so cool. Like that's part of the draw to these too, is that scale look, right? Man, they did a really good job on these. I think they did a great job. And like the knuckles super beefy. So let's weigh. Let's weigh this guy. So let's zero him out. So we know this guy is 80 grams without the servo mount. Now remember, the one thing that this really has on it is the brass cover too. So I would assume eventually they're going to make a brass cover. That is 57. So adding a brass cover, maybe another 5 to 10 grams. So say this thing comes out to 67 grams. Still on the lighter side for some of the guys who really want to get that weight bias set up. A lot of the Mias axles, their aluminum are around 90 in the front, roughly the same in the rear as these. Let's look at the rear. So a rear, this does have the aluminum mount on it. Link mount. So this is 30 grams. Let's look at the 30 grams. So they're the same. I would assume you put this riser on, you might get another half a gram or whatever. But the rear is where I think it's really at when it comes to them radiusing this whole axle and cover. I think they did a really good job there. I think that's going to really help on hangups. But I've never really had a huge problem with the Super 8s and hangups because they're all, the old one, the V1s, it's a pretty smooth transition. Although I think, when you really look at this thing, you don't have this sticking out right there. Really rounded the bottom a little bit more. They did a good job on the V2s. I think they did. The one thing I do like is that they left everything threaded. The Spider 9s, you have to use the nut, which is a little more scale. Kind of cool for the scale look, but if you're moving things around, changing things, if you're trying to use them in a performance application, it's kind of a pain in the butt. So man, this is the V2s. I really like them so far. They did a really good job at that center section. I'd love to see a brass cover to get a little bit more in the front on this thing. And then, okay, let's talk final thoughts about like where we think they could be good, positives, negatives, whatnot. So, Super 8s, OG V1s, they use a standard SCX24 knuckle. So you can use any aftermarket SCX24 knuckle on here. You can use a little guy brass knuckle. aluminum knuckle, plastic knuckle. You can go trio, hot racing, hard park. All their knuckles, they all fit on here. They all fit on here great. I've run all of them. I run the trios a lot now because I like the weight. They add a lot more weight. Them and the hot racing, they add a good amount of weight that I feel gets you to where you need to be when you want to work that bias with like front to back. If I need to go just a little bit lighter, I usually use the Tiny Terrains knuckles. I really like Chad. The hard park knuckles, or his low blow knuckles, are so sweet, but they're a little on the pricey side. The one cool thing though is they use a 2mm screw here on the steering link, because if you look, I run a longer screw in here because I have broken these screws off many times, like impacts or whatnot. And if you don't run a long screw here, you can't get it out and your knuckles trashed. So what Chad does is he runs a 2mm screw, that bigger screw. I've never broken any of those. So whenever I use any of the other, like these, I always run a little bit longer on screw length. That way if better snaps, I can get my needle nose on this guy and pull it out from the bottom. So just a little tip. But that's an advantage to the V2 and the Spider 9 with this knuckle design. It is double shear. You're not going to break these. So you can still run the scale size 1.4 hardware. The likelihood of snapping this thing in 2 spots, even 1 spot, is very unlikely because you're spreading all that load through the double shear setup. So it's a much stronger design and much more scale looking. So that is super, super cool to me. So rear, I mean, I don't think there's too much to talk about in the rear except for, that the radius that they did, that is a big benefit on here. And then the ability to do the scale brakes, because that's just awesome, right? Scale brakes on the front. I think the biggest thing for me in the front. Okay. I like the new steering design. I like the knuckle with the double shear. And of course the radius in the front helps and all that other stuff. Everything's a lot smoother. The drawback to the front of these right now is weight. Even with the brass knuckle, you're not going to add a whole lot to where you might want to be in a performance application. So I think, for sure we need a brass front cover, which I'm sure they're working on. I haven't talked to them about it, but I'm sure they are, because that just makes normal sense. The knuckle, I don't think they'll make another brass knuckle for this. I think we're going to have to hope that somebody like Jeff from Tiny Terrains or, somebody else decides to make a knuckle specific to the V2 and the Spider 9 that has a little bit more low hung slung weight down here. You could add more weight. You could add more material down here, and you could add material to the top, back over here too. So I think if we could get a knuckle that still has the double shear and, the look, I think, just adding a little bit more weight down here that still fits within the wheel, I think we'll get to a point where we can, honestly, you would use the V2 over the V1 any day. Right now, I would say for a performance application, I'd probably still lean towards the V1. Just, if I'm really going to want something that I can really get the weight bias, comp it, and all that other stuff, probably going to lean towards the V1. But man, for the looks, I think, and for the hope in the future that we can add a little bit more weight to these, I really like where they've gone with this, because the scale brakes, the scale knuckle, all the radius on the bottom, it's so cool. They did a great job. So those are my thoughts, my opinions. Yeah, great job, little guy. As usual, high quality, great ideas. I love it. I love the innovation. I love where they're going with a lot of things. I love that the fact that they listen to a lot of the feedback that everybody's had. So, I think all we need from them is some brass covers and Jeff, Tiny Terrains, if you're watching, bro, make some knuckles. Make some knuckles. Then we could, man, I would use these all the time in everything, because then you could have cool scale brakes too. It look really awesome. So, oh, one other thing I was kind of bummed about, because I like it when they do it. They did the brass, LGRP on there. Nothing on this one. I like when the brands put their logo on, but not too big and too out of control. Like, I know someone put like a big old one here, and I'm not a big fan of that. But like inconspicuous, like right there, just says LGRP on it. I like how they had it on the back of the cover, because it wasn't in the front, like glaring or anything. Trio always seems to do a good job of putting some of their logos on there too. So that would be my only thing. But I think they probably went away from it to keep it looking really scale. I mean, man, look at those R1 concepts. The red looks good with the gold, man. So other big plus, way bigger U-joint, way bigger bearing, bigger shaft, outer shaft, so the whole outer bearing area should be way stronger than a V1. I usually don't have issues though. I don't run inner bearings. I always check my endpoints for bind, and a lot of people don't set that up right, and that's why they end up breaking U-joints. So I'm going to tell you, a lot of people go, oh, I set my endpoints. You don't do it correctly. You got to do it while it's running. You got to put it low. You got to put load on it on the ground, turn it, and you'll see it start binding, and then you got to back the steering angle off. You got to do that on the Mias ones too. None of them get their full steering angle. I'm going to tell you right now. Everybody wants crazy steering angle. The Mias has the 52. These have 41, 42. Dude, depends on the application. Most setups out there can't use that 52 degrees anyway. The only one that I've seen actually really use it lately is the drip kit. But they designed it around those axles too. So, but these things have never failed me when it comes to turning radius. And if you need that kind of radius, go 4-wheel steering. If you're trying to do that, just go 4-wheel steer. But man, epic. I love these things. I really do. Man, all we need, brass cover, maybe a little bit heavier weighted knuckle too for the future to really be able to use these in a competitive situation. Or maybe an injection molded Spider Super 8 V2. Then you could weight bias it. That might work too. Get something a little bit lighter in the back. Ooh, yeah, I like that idea too. All right, I appreciate it. Hopefully you hung on. Look, you can't really go wrong with any of them. Their quality is great. Little guy is awesome. So appreciate the support. Comment, like, subscribe. If you want to get a new set of these, we have a discount code with Little Guy Racing Parts. It's 10% off anytime. Whenever you want to use it. Whenever you go to make an order, you can use it. You can get 10% off your whole order. It's 818CG10. I'll put it in the comments too. So, I mean, anytime you guys want to go buy something, it's good all year round. So 10% off any order at any time. So appreciate you. Catch you in the next one.